Good morning. It's DeForest Buckner week, so why don't we all just put that talk to rest? Or is that wishful thinking? I'm not sure. I'm going to invite my Twitter friends to join us here, so I'm creating the broadcast right now and tweeting it out. And as soon as that happens, we are going to get going. All right, we're ready to go. DeForest Buckner and the 49ers. It was a match made in heaven until it wasn't following that 2019 season. He's now with the Colts. The Colts are coming to play the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. So this will be the reunion for DeForest Buckner, his first trip back to Levi's Stadium since the trade back in 2020, which has struck an emotional lightning rod for 49ers fans. I mean, you guys take this really, really seriously, as you should. It was a big trade, but I think it's time to get over it at this point for some of these people because it's 17 months in the rearview mirror and it's so much more complex than people are trying to make it out to be. I understand people are frustrated right now because the 49ers are 2-3. A lot of the durability issues that scuttled the 2020 season are rearing their ugly heads again here in 2021. Because of that, DeForest Buckner, who was really a pillar of durability, he played 66 of 67 possible games for the 49ers over his 4 years there. Because of that, he's symbolic of that, not only the dominant defensive run in 2019, but also symbolic of better times. So during these tougher times for the 49ers, these argumentative times, it's been just a high strung year in general on social media surrounding the team. I think that DeForest Buckner represents something that he probably shouldn't represent. He represents, uh, that lightning rod to which people gravitate when they want to argue about the 49ers brass. They want to say, oh, John Lynch is an idiot. Kyle Shanahan is an idiot. Look what he did. They both shipped DeForest Buckner out of town. They should be held accountable for that. Whereas the other side of the coin, the patient side of the coin, the side of the coin that says, hey, wait, why don't we let these moves develop? Why don't we let stuff materialize downstream before judging things? They take to this DeForest Buckner situation and they take to it as a hot button issue and argue the opposite side. So in a way, DeForest Buckner and that whole trade and the aftermath of it has become the focal point of 49ers discourse, especially this week. But it shouldn't be the focal point of discourse. Ironically, I'm here talking about it, but I guess that's what I'm paid to do. I'm paid to talk and analyze stuff about the 49ers. But hopefully I can bring a more measured approach to what's going on with this DeForest Buckner situation so that we can properly evaluate it. And here's a spoiler alert. Even though in the title of this video I said, let's put this topic to rest, we actually won't be able to fully put it to rest for several years. DeForest Buckner's contract with the Colts runs through 2024. Eric Armstead's contract with the 49ers, signed at about the same time that DeForest Buckner was traded and signed with the Colts, also runs through 2024. And as you'll see, the downstream effects of this trade will be felt for a long time. It's a ripple effect kind of thing. And it really depends on what the 49ers do with those effects that will determine whether or not this trade was successful for them. We can only talk about the process right now. It's really hard to talk about the outcomes before most of those outcomes have even developed or even happened, right? So we're not going to be able to put it fully to rest today, but we're going to be able to contextualize what happened. First of all, the salary cap affects everybody. That's one of the big myths going on right now. DeForest Buckner even said it. Jimmy Ward said it a few days ago when he questioned why the 49ers couldn't be more like the Rams, and DeForest Buckner said the same thing. The Rams have been able to make it work. Why can't the 49ers? That just is flat out untrue. The Rams have not been able to make it work with the salary cap as far as retaining the entirety of their roster. The Rams lost a third of their starting defense this past offseason due to the salary cap. John Johnson, the safety, no longer there. Michael Brockers, defensive end, no longer there. Morgan Fox, no longer there. I mean, these were all important players of the league's top defense that the Rams lost, and they're no longer the league's top defense. So in the salary cap era, you have to make priorities, and based on those priorities, you determine who you keep. The 49ers in this DeForest Buckner situation, of course, they didn't make him a priority, but as you'll see, it wasn't just an Armstead versus Buckner decision. This is my piece right now on The Athletic, so I'm going to put it in the comment section. Go ahead and go check that out, subscribe, do whatever you need to, but this is the important graph. Everybody talks about this as the 49ers deprioritizing DeForest Buckner in favor of Eric Armstead, which is only like 5% of the story. Comparing 2020 and 2021 salary cap hits for both players based on the contracts that they signed. Eric Armstead has a combined cap hit of $18.5 million for the two seasons. George Kittle, who the 49ers signed after this trade with Buckner, $11.3 million. Jimmy Ward also signed afterwards, $9 million. And Fred Warner signed in 2020, $3.6 million. That's just a sampling of the big names that the 49ers signed following this DeForest Buckner trade. Now, DeForest Buckner's combined 2020-2021 cap hit with the Indianapolis Colts is $40.4 million. These four players combined have totaled a cap hit of $42.4 million, right around what Buckner's own, sole total was for the 2020-2021 seasons. And the 49ers, as it stands, are right up against the salary cap. So even if they would have structured DeForest Buckner's contract in a more backloaded way, like they structured Eric Armstead's contract, they wouldn't have been able to save the type of money that they did to sign Armstead, Kittle, Ward, and Warner. You could even toss Juszczyk in there because DeForest Buckner was asking for a bigger deal than Eric Armstead. So it's complete apples and oranges. Eric Armstead ended up getting $17 million a year. DeForest Buckner ended up getting $21 million a year. Yes, DeForest said that he was willing to meet the 49ers in the middle, but we don't know exactly where the middle was. It was presumably somewhere in between 17 and 21 million a year. I'm guessing 19 or 20. But even then, that extra 2 or 3 million per year would have, added up to nearly 10 million over the life of the contract. And as you can see in the table right here, that would have prevented the 49ers from retaining another free agent. On top of that, DeForest Buckner actually had trade value and Eric Armstead didn't. Armstead was going to be an unrestricted free agent. Buckner was entering his fifth-year option season. So that meant that the 49ers could deal him for a first-round pick. Now, that's where a lot of the criticism comes in. And this is where we need to differentiate process from outcomes. This is very hard for people to do, but say that I go and negotiate a pay raise, right? And I start making $50,000 instead of $40,000 a month. That would mean I'm very wealthy. But say that I'm making $50K instead of $40K a month after I negotiated the pay raise. But then say that I turned around after the pay raise and started blowing all my money on burritos and In-N-Out Burger to the point where I had absolutely nothing left. I wasted everything. I bought all of my followers Taqueria Cancun burrito and an In-N-Out order every single day. You could criticize my spending habits, but it wouldn't make any sense to criticize how I executed my pay raise, if that makes sense. The process was that I got a pay raise, and then in a separate event, I blew all my money on In-N-Out Burger and burritos. The outcome at the end would be bad, but you couldn't blame the process. You couldn't blame the fact that I got the pay raise. The 49ers drafted Javon Kinlaw to fill into DeForest Buckner's spot. We see a lot of confusion between process and outcome in this whole thing, even though the outcome I don't think has been fully decided yet. Kinlaw's only in year 2. Kinlaw still obviously has time in front of him. He's dealing with a chronic knee issue right now, and the 49ers probably knew about it before the draft. So, yes, that doesn't look like a smart use of the number 14 overall pick, which they got in exchange for the trade with Buckner after a one-spot trade down with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the whole Kinlaw thing juxtaposed with Buckner's durability, because Kinlaw has been not durable so far, to say the least, with that knee and mispracticed again on Wednesday. That doesn't look good for the 49ers. Neither does the fact that Buckner gave the 49ers consistently 1,000 snaps per year, and Kinlaw's given them, 500 per year right now. It hasn't been a plug-and-play replacement, and it definitely doesn't look like Kinlaw, who's more of a run stopper. And the 49ers needed that because one of Buckner's weaknesses, I think, was getting pushed around a little bit against the run. So the 49ers got a bigger, stronger defensive tackle. It still is not optimal to use that high of a first-round pick on a run stopper who's still struggling to pass rush. And the 49ers definitely will need more from Kinlaw as far as pass rushing goes. But that doesn't negate the fact that the process behind the Buckner trade, which involved the 49ers getting enough resources to sign players they wouldn't have otherwise been able to sign. And these are star players. When you talk about Kittle, when you talk about Warner, when you talk about Juszczyk, Armstead this year is outplaying Buckner. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the 49ers wouldn't have been able to have the resources to do that. Plus, they were also able to rake in that first-round pick. Now, just because they didn't spend the first-round pick wisely doesn't mean that the process of trying to stockpile assets was faulty, right? That these are two separate things. So let's levy the criticism at the 49ers where they actually deserve to be criticized. The draft picks, many of them have been questionable. The durability of the team, that's also in question. And that's where I would point, to the questions of this Buckner trade. If you were going to criticize the 49ers, it's that they have not consistently picked the most durable players. Maybe one could argue it would be worth investing in Buckner over Armstead and over Kittle and over even Jimmy Ward, who obviously wasn't very durable prior to 2019. You could legitimately come to the table and make that argument and say, because DeForest Buckner has not missed any games because he's played at this level, I would rather have him than all of these other players. But at least make that argument honestly, and don't make the disingenuous argument of this was Armstead versus Buckner, because it wasn't Armstead versus Buckner. It was Armstead, Kittle, Ward, maybe even Warner, maybe even Bosa in the future against Buckner. Now, I get it. The 49ers, at a certain point, you save enough money, you don't sign some of those guys, and you'd have enough money for Bosa. So I didn't include Bosa in the table. But basically, it was multiple players versus Buckner. I mean, this is something that teams have done throughout the eternity of the salary cap era to stay afloat. The people who say that the salary cap doesn't affect everybody, well, it affected the Rams. That's just a mistruth that it didn't affect the Rams. And it certainly sunk the dynastic 49ers in the early 2000s. So the salary cap is a real thing, and the 49ers were simply trying to maximize assets, and they were trying to keep as many players as possible. You talk about trying to preserve a roster. Well, sometimes you have to let a guy go. I mean, I think all the time in the history of salary cap football, you have to let somebody go to preserve the majority of the roster. And that's what the 49ers did. Now, when we talk about Armstead against Buckner, of course, that was one of the decision points of this trade. And interestingly enough, so far this season, as we get ready for this game on Sunday, Eric Armstead has outperformed DeForest Buckner. Last season, DeForest Buckner is an all-pro, definitely outperformed Eric Armstead. 10.6% pressure rate to 7.5% for Armstead. That was much lower for Armstead than it was in 2019. I think it was clear that Eric Armstead benefits from playing next to Nick Bosa. But here in 2021, the tables have turned. And Eric Armstead, he's really high up there. 13.1% pressure rate. Buckner down at 8.7%. I'll make it a little bit bigger for you. But Buckner ranks number 63. Armstead is up at number 19. I mean, if pressure rate doesn't do it for you and you want to know double team rate, DeForest Buckner has not been double teamed any more than the average NFL defensive tackle. The PFF grades for Eric Armstead are higher across the board. Run defense, pass rush, whatever, you name it. Eric Armstead has been better than DeForest Buckner this year. The 49ers are also getting him at much cheaper than DeForest Buckner. So whichever way you want to spin it, that aspect of the trade is looking much better for the 49ers in 2021. There are obviously many, many other aspects of the trade, and those are all downstream, process oriented aspects. At least that's how we should treat them. So we won't be able to fully close the book on the ripple effects until at least 2024. But for the time being, we can analyze that the 49ers, I don't think, have badly missed DeForest Buckner. I don't think he changes the disaster that was 2020. That was, a big time fault of the Nick Bosa injury and injuries up front for the 49ers offensively, right? I mean, you had the center issue, you obviously had the quarterback issue. Deebo Samuel couldn't stay healthy. It was a nightmare season for the 49ers offensively, and they finished 6-10. But we saw the 49ers with a healthy Buckner in 2018 and no quarterback. That didn't change things. That was still a losing team. We saw the 49ers in 2016 and 2017, so basically 2016 through 2018 with a healthy Buckner and not much else. And that didn't really impact the football team in a positive way as far as win-loss record is concerned. Here in 2021, 49ers defense is starting to hit its stride. Armstead is playing well. Bosa is playing well. I mean, regardless of whether or not Kinlaw has been available or unavailable, it's really hard to argue that the DeForest Buckner departure is somehow sinking the 49ers. What sunk the 49ers are injuries elsewhere. So the fact that they were able to sign other guys and grab that first round pick, regardless of what they've done process-wise with those picks down the road, regardless of whether or not they've wasted that capital on the road, it's really, really tough to argue that DeForest Buckner and losing him was somehow the torpedo that has sunk this ship. And this ship is still far from sunk as we head into this next week. 49ers are 2-3. They'll see DeForest Buckner out on their field. He was a great player for them, but they made the Moneyball type of move that I think they would make again if they had to. Maybe they wouldn't do Javon Kinlaw again, but again, the book, even on that, is not yet closed. Hope this cleared it up. Make sure that you read The Athletic. Check out this DeForest Buckner piece. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll talk to you all next time. All right, everybody, take care.